because then I'm going to upload this in a YouTube channel that only you can go there, guys. So don't worry, it's going to be unlisted. And yeah, but if any of you or any of your classmates cannot make it, they can go and they can watch the recording. All right.
Okay.
So
one of our classmates may not be in tonight, Jasmine.
Yes.
Okay.
I received a couple of emails for that. So I have Mike here. Olivia, it's very nice to see you again, Olivia. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing very good. I'm very happy to be here and being your teacher again.
Yeah, I'm happy to be your student again.
Thank you, Olivia. That's very kind. So Olivia, Mike, and who else is here? Okay, I have Ashley as well. Nice to meet you, Ashley. Sarah. Just recording your attendance. Allison, Janet. We have also Dara, Crystal.
Oh.
Crystal. And finally, we have K3. Okay. All right. So, okay, guys. We have to start. We are on time, and I'm very happy to be here with you. My name is Dr. Mario Guzman, and this is your first class in Counseling Methods 2, number 2, and we're going to be talking about CBT most part of the time, most part of the course. However, we also going to take a look on schema therapy and also in acceptance and commitment therapy. So I hope that you like this class. I hope that you like the topics that we're going to be seeing here, working here. And right now I'm going to start sharing my screen with you because I have a PowerPoint for you. Okay. So, okay. So I want to ask you guys, because I'm recording these for the students that were not able to be here. You are seeing my PowerPoint right now, and are you seeing me also like in a little box or something?
Yes.
Yes.
Awesome. Perfect. Okay. All right. So, okay. So we're going to start with class number 1. And these are the topics for today, guys. First, I'm going to introduce myself. Then I'm going to explain a little bit about my teaching. Then we're going to have an activity. It's a CBT activity to try to see how are you doing with the pandemic. How is the pandemic impacting you? And then I'm going to present to you my answers from that CBT activity. One of the things that are important in CBT is that we learn doing things. We not only learn by theory or by reading, but by doing things. And that is true for everybody, for the counselor, for the client, for the students, for the teacher, for everybody, okay? Then we're gonna talk about the syllabus. Then we're gonna have a break. And then we're gonna have our first lecture that is gonna be an introduction to CBT, guys. All right. I want to ask you guys to please mute your microphones. And if any of you want to say something, you just unmute your microphone and you can interrupt me and say like, hey, Dr. Guzman, can you explain this more? Or can you explain this better? I'm asking you this because sometimes we don't have control of our families, kids, or whoever is close to us. And then that can bring unexpected noise. And for those students that are going to be watching the recording, it might be a little bit disturbing, okay? But feel free to share in any given moment. You just have to unmute. This is a short group, so that's a good thing. Yeah, you just have to unmute, and with that, we can start a conversation together, okay? All right, so I'm gonna introduce myself. So I have some questions that I'm gonna answer to you guys. And after these questions, you can answer to me whatever you want, okay? I'm gonna be happy to answer any question, any curiosity that you might have about me, about my work or whatever. So who's Dr. Guzman? Well, my name is Mario Guzman. I'm originally from Mexico. I am married. I have been married for 15 years with my lovely wife. Her name is Anna, and I have three kids that I really like. They are a blessing in my life. The oldest is Juan Mario. Then I have a daughter. Her name is Fatima. And then I have the little one. His name is Bosco. I have a PhD in psychology. I have 2 master's degrees. One master's degree is in CBT. The other one is in analytical psychology, which is the Carl Gustav Jung School of Psychology. I also have 2 different studies on postgraduate studies. One is in psychopathology, and the other one is in philosophy. So that's why is that I'm gonna be also teaching you psychopathology at the end of this semester. I want to tell you, I'm kind of concerned, guys, because you're gonna have Dr. Guzman in 2 classes the same semester. I don't know how you're gonna do with that, but well, maybe at the end of this semester, your ears are gonna be very used to the Latin accent. So, well, at least I hope so. And I have a licenciate in psychology. The licenciate is similar to the bachelor degree, but also different. It's very common in Latin America and in Europe. The difference is that we go for 5 years to the School of Psychology, and we don't have other courses. Like, for example, you can have different courses. When you go to the bachelor, you can study theater and you can study psychology at the same time, right? You have majors, minors, and things like that. Well, we don't have that. It's just psychology for 5 years. And of course, subjects that are important for psychology, like statistics and biology and things like that. I have been working as a counselor, as a psychotherapist for almost 18 years now. One of my master's degree was done in Barcelona, Spain. And that was from 2000 to 2002. So I came back to my hometown, which is Guadalajara, and I started working there as a therapist, as a counselor, in the year 2002. So yeah, almost 18 years now with a clinical experience. Now, I guess that is like the business card, right? That's the way that I'm presenting myself. I missed to say also that I'm the author of a book that is called La Transformación del Adolescente, which means the transformation of the adolescent. I am also author of several articles, peer-reviewed articles in journals, chapter books. I contribute to different web pages with articles as well. I also work with a company here that it's called SEEDS Family Services. We provide lectures, seminars to the Latino community in the Chicago area, with the school districts especially. And yeah, well, I would say that's like my business presentation, right? But I guess that in a more deep way, well, I'm a guy that is profoundly convinced of the existence of God and profoundly grateful with his presence in my life for several reasons. So just a short story here, guys. I came here to this country 6 years ago because my little one, he has a very rare syndrome, which is Cloves syndrome, C-L-O-V-E-S syndrome. And so he was born here, and he had a very, very rough time the first 2 years, surgeries, amputations, treatments, and so on. And anyway, so I'm telling you this because that was a very important moment for me, like a wake-up call. Before that time, I was like very scientific, kind of I would not say atheist, but at least I was very distant from my faith. And that was a wake-up call, and God made himself present in my life and now 6 years after, I'm working for Trinity Christian College, and I'm profoundly thankful for him, for everything that he has been giving me, and also for this beautiful country, because it has been an amazing journey for me and my family to be in this country, which I really love this country. I think, as I mentioned, I was living in Europe before, in Spain, in France, then I was living in Mexico, and I can tell you guys, for me, the United States is the best country in the world. Yeah, it's not perfect. It has many areas of opportunity. There are many things that we still need to work with this country, but it's an amazing country. So very thankful for being here, and also very, very thankful for have the opportunity to be in front of you guys. Okay, so that's me. Where is he from? Well, from Mexico. I already said that. What is he doing here? I guess that I already answered that question. So I came for a second medical opinion for my wife while she was pregnant. And long story short, she was not able to go back to Mexico for the delicate health, like my baby's delicate health state at the moment. And so she had to stay here. The baby had to born here. And again, long story short, 6 years after, I'm here teaching in front of you. So what are his thoughts in psychology and counseling? Okay, so psychology, it's a very, very peculiar science. We are still trying to figure it out. What is our object of study? If you go with a behaviorist and you ask a behaviorist what is he studying, he's gonna tell you behavior, just behavior that you can measure, and that's it. If you go with a psychoanalyst, he's gonna tell you unconscious content. If you go with a CBT guy, he's gonna tell you, well, behavior plus cognition. If you go with a social psychology person, he's gonna tell you, well, I study the influence of society in the individual. And so on, right? I think we are still trying to figure it out. What are we doing here? With more recent approaches like neuroscience, now many psychologists are saying like, oh, well, we study the brain. And I'm like, that's the neurologists, guys. We're missing the point here, okay? I don't know, maybe we have a identity crisis. I don't know. But, or maybe that's the fascinating part of psychology, that we study all these areas. We study social psychology, we study educational psychology, we study the unconscious, the behavior, the cognitions, the brain, and so on. And all that is maybe, if we are intelligent enough, maybe that is giving us a lot of tools that we can integrate to have a more deep understanding of human behavior, of human relationships, human suffering, and human development. I don't know. Yeah, I'm also the professor of lifespan development at Trinity Christian College, so you will see that I bring many topics that are part of the human development in the classes, which I hope you like it, because it's going to help you to integrate many things in your counseling, okay? Now, about counseling, well, I need to confess you something, guys. I have been struggling for the last couple of years with this idea of counseling versus psychotherapy. I don't know how much you know about the extent of the difference between counseling and psychotherapy. Honestly, there was not too much difference a long time, like a couple of years ago. The idea of counseling in psychology is very recent, and apparently has to do with some political issues, identity issues. The American Psychological Association, they say that they will not, how should I say this? That they will not, that they are only interested in PhD studies and not in master degrees studies, which I think is a terrible, terrible, terrible decision from them, from the association. So what happened is that many people going to master's programs, they were like, well, then who's our association, right? If the APA is only interested in PhD programs, who's gonna back up us? Who's gonna see for our interest? So there you have. They decide to build a new association, the American Counseling Association, which I think has been a good idea because, again, people with master's degree, they need like an association, an institution of professionals to support them, to help them to navigate the legal system, to have an identity and so on. But having said that, what happened is that the word psychotherapy seems that was put it on the side. And now the word counseling is the word that we are using more often. It's very rare now to hear someone talking about psychotherapy. Pretty much everyone is talking about counseling. But that is here in the United States. That's not happening in any other parts of the world. So if you go to Latin America or if you go to Europe, you will see that it's still psychotherapy, and that pretty much people that they do master's degrees in psychotherapy, counseling, whatever you want to call it, they belong to the psychological associations of their country. So in my opinion, I think that there's like some political issues there that I cannot say that they are good or wrong. I just say that this is what's going on now. And you will see that many of the books that we're going to be using here, they talk about psychotherapy or just therapy. But I want to invite you to see them like as synonymous of counseling, okay? And I think that in Canada, they are going in a similar situation than here in the United States, because the Canadian Psychological Association, they follow the same steps of the American Psychological Association. Anyway, in my opinion, I think that there's a lot of pros in calling counseling and counseling programs. Also, I think that has some disadvantages, because at the end, counseling is part of psychology. And because of these political issues, they don't want, like they are promoting as much as they can that we use the word counseling and not the word psychology. Yeah, so yeah, anyway. So I don't know if I'm confusing you with these guys, but it has been challenging for me because now I have to change many of the books that I'm using because they don't want the word psychology included there. So anyway, well, why CBT? Why is that I choose CBT? As I mentioned before, first I was working with Jungian analysis, which is called analytical psychology, and which is a beautiful way of psychology and psychotherapy. I strongly suggest you to read about this guy to try to have an understanding of him. It is very complicated. It's very complex. You will require a lot of coffee in your system and a lot of patience, and maybe to read 2 or 3 times each one of his books to have a better understanding of what is he saying, because he was really complex, a lot of information, a great intellectual. And I love his psychology, but there's a problem with that psychology. It's not practical. Many of the clients that I was seeing, they were coming to my meeting with panic attacks, with depression, with sexual issues, with I don't know, sleeping problems, with anxiety problems in general, and so on. And they were looking for something to do with their problems. And one of the things with analytical psychology, which is a different way of psychoanalysis, is I would say it's like a sibling, a brother or sister of psychoanalysis. Carl Gustav Jung was Sigmund Freud's right hand for a long time. So, and it's another way that it's known, Jungian psychoanalysis. And I'm saying this because that type of therapy, you do not provide your clients with strategies, tools to face their problems. You listen, then you do interpretations, and then you let the client to work with their unconscious content, right? And that's why if you are attending psychoanalysis, you can be there for the rest of your life, basically. There are people that they have spent 10 years in psychoanalysis. I remember a client who calls me once and she said, like, I want to ask your opinion. I'm seeing my psychoanalyst and I don't know if I should stop seeing her or not. And I said, well, that's something that you should talk with her, not with me. I am not your provider. And she was like, well, it's just that I need a second opinion because I already talked with her. And she said that are my resistance, which is a very common word in the psychoanalytic world. And I asked her, and well, okay, and what do you think about that? And she's like, well, I don't know if it's resistance or not. The only thing that I know is that I'm paying a lot of money and I don't have more money for paying for that. This was back in Mexico where insurance doesn't cover counseling, guys. And I asked her, okay, tell me, how long have you been seeing your therapist? And she said to me, 10 years. I was like, oh, wow, that's a lot of time. And how often are you seeing her? And she's 3 days per week. And I'm like, really? Are you serious? Yeah, she's like, yes, I'm serious. And when you say to her that you want to stop, she said, that are the resistance? And she said, like, not even that. I just asked her that if we could start seeing each other every once or twice per week instead of 3 times per week. And she said that those were my resistance. So I said, like, okay, well, that's not how I see it, right? From a CBT perspective, we have a different opinion in that, guys. And the opinion is the client is going with you because he has a problem that he or she doesn't know how to face that problem, overcome that problem, or to fix that problem. And it's not that you know how to solve them, because you don't know. That's very important to have in mind, guys. We don't know anything about their problems. They are the experts in the problems. We are the experts in the theories, right? And the techniques and strategies. And what we're going to try to do is to work collaborative with them. We're going to tell them that this is a collaboratively work where they're going to bring their problem, their expertise in their problem, and they're going to try to follow our strategies, suggestions, ideas, because we're going to bring that to the meetings. We're going to bring our expertise on the theory, strategies, techniques that might help in their problem. And together, we're going to do experiments and we're going to try to see if they work or they don't work for them. As you are seeing, CBT is very practical, very scientific based. And because of that, generally speaking, we see clients around, I would say in an average, 15, 16 meetings. Although we have programs as short as 2 or 3 meetings, for example, for patients with phobias, that's the case. We have treatments that they can be for 2 or 3 sessions only, but also we can have longer treatments for clients with personality disorders. Because they are very complicated, very complex cases, and sometimes we work with them for 6 months, then we make a pause, a break, and then we work with them again, and so on. Okay, so that's why I move or I shift to CBT. However, I still have a lot of appreciation for Jungian studies. Okay, any other theoretical approach? I already talked about Jungian theories. I like existentialist therapies, especially Viktor Frankl, logotherapy. I also like, you will see that in CBT, we talk about 3 different waves. The first wave, that those are the behavioral therapies. I love them. Then the second wave, which is CBT, what we're going to be seeing here. And that includes different types of CBTs. We're going to talk about that later. And then we have the third wave of CBTs, which you can find acceptance and commitment therapy, or you can find dialectical therapy, and many other therapies, okay? I like some of them, not all of them, honestly, guys, but some of them I also like. Psychology / counseling and Christianity, how do you integrate them? That has been a huge challenge in my life since I started studying psychology in 1995, all the way to right now. And it has been, honestly, guys, it has been very difficult. I think that I lose my faith in a certain moments of my life because of psychology. You will see there are many psychologists, many important figures in psychology that they work against religion. They are openly atheist, and they are not only open atheists, but they are activists in their atheism. So psychology has been responsible of the secularization of our society in a very important way. From Sigmund Freud, that he was saying that religion is just unconscious content that we are projecting those unconscious necessities, to Albert Ellis, which is one of the grandfathers of CBT, saying that religious ideas are irrational ideas, or to the most contemporary postmodernist Marxist approach, saying that religion is all about power and the struggling between those who are in power and those who are not in power. However, in psychology, there's also a tradition of psychologists working to try to understand religion in a better way, to try to understand the relationship between psychology and religion in a more deep way. And we have studies that are called psychology of religion, and we have also studies that are called psychology of their religion. And you can take a look on people like Paul Vitz, for example. I'm going to show you one of his books. I have it somewhere here. Yeah, I think I have it downstairs, but when we do the break, I'm going to bring that book to you guys. You can take a look on it. Also, the great philosopher and psychologist, William James, which I strongly encourage you to take a look on who's this guy. Well, who was this guy? He's probably the most important philosopher, the most important American philosopher, I should say. And he's like the first psychologist in the United States, I would say. Yeah, but he's like the first psychologist in America. So yeah, very important guy, very important guy. And he has a beautiful book that is called The Variety of Religious Experiences, which is like the foundation of the scientific study of religion. All right, guys, so that's me, and that was more than 10 minutes. So I'm gonna explain very fast this about my teaching. So 3 things that I want to say about my teaching. These are quotes that they can bring some light about how I understand teaching. First one, give instructions to a wise man, and he will be still wiser. Teach a righteous man, and he will increase in learning. This is from Proverbs in the Bible, in the Old Testament. 2 things here, wisdom and righteousness. And I really like these guys because I think that as a professor, I have a more important job to do with you than only to teach you CBT or to teach you theoretical approaches in counseling. And that is to try to activate the righteousness and the wisdom that is already in you, to try to help you, not to teach you wisdom or to teach you righteousness, because I am far capable to do that, but to try to help you to see that you are capable to conquer wisdom in your life and to have a life based on righteousness, to be a righteous person. Yeah, and I hope that I can contribute in that somehow. 2, I have more understanding that all my teachers, for your testimonies, are my meditations. And I hope that that can become true for you guys, that one day I can see you and I can say like, oh, these guys, they have more understanding than me. And it's not because of my class. It is not because the books that they have been reading. It's not because the certifications that they have. It's not because the master's degree. It's not because the therapy, the counseling that they work with, but because they have been following the testimonies of our Lord. And I think that if you are capable to do that, guys, you're going to be better than me and yeah, and probably from the rest of the faculty as well. And finally, it is impossible to begin to learn that which one thinks one already knows. That is Epictetus. Epictetus was a great philosopher. We're going to talk about him in a moment. But I want to bring that quote to you guys because I want to encourage you, be open in this class. Be open to listening. I know for you it's going to be hard, my accent, right? Sometimes I say words in Spanish. Don't feel bad if I'm speaking in Spanish and you don't understand a thing. You can stop me and say, Dr. Guzman, you're speaking in Spanish. That happens very often, especially when I'm very tired. So please don't feel bad to tell me that. But what I'm trying to say here is be open to my ideas. Be open to the ideas of your classmates. Be open to your own ideas. This is not going to be a fight. There might be topics that can be challenging or disagreements, and that's okay, guys. We can agree to disagree, no problem. But what I have seen in my own experience as a student and now as a teacher is that when we think that we know enough, or when we know everything, or that we know more than the teacher, we learn nothing. And you are doing a huge sacrifice coming to these classes, paying for this master program. So I will encourage you, be open. Don't let the ego to tell you that you know better. You might know better than me in many things. But maybe there's a couple of things that you can learn from me and from your classmates and from the beautiful books and articles that we're going to be working with. All right, so that's me. Now I want to ask you guys, and I'm going to open this so I can see you. Do any of you have any questions that you would like to ask? I'm going to stop this so we can go to, yeah. Do any of you have questions? Anything that you would like to ask me, to know about me, my work, or anything that you would like to ask?
I have a question.
Yes, Mike, go ahead.
So you said that your specialty is CBT, correct?
Correct, sir.
At what particular point did you feel as though that's the area that you want to concentrate? Because sometimes I feel as I'm not there yet. Should I be there yet? Should I be considering a specific area concentrating when
Awesome.
thinking about?
That's a great question, Mike. I made a mistake at the beginning of my career, and that mistake was to think that the only thing that I should study, it was Jungian studies. I'm saying that was a mistake because I missed to study many other authors, but at the same time was a good thing because I put all my attention in Carl Gustav Jung and I learned a lot about him. But then when I was in the real practice with my clients and that they were coming with panic attacks, with sleeping problems and so on, I fell short of strategies, like practical strategies. And that's when I start turning to the CBT and see why is that CBT was claiming to be effective, so effective. Why is that CBT was coming with so many scientific studies saying that they have strategies for panic attack, strategies for depression, strategies for social anxiety, for PTSD, and that they were effective. So I started looking on them and I started exploring that little by little, using it by myself with no instruction. And I realized that they were effective. Clients that I was working with them for 3 years with panic attacks and they have no improvement. Suddenly I start using CBT and after 3 or 4 weeks, they start improving. I was like, oh my, this is good. Then I was very lucky and I received a scholarship and I went to my master's degree for CBT. So what will be my recommendation to you, Mike? Do not make my mistake. Give yourself the opportunity right now and probably for the first 2 years after your master program to try to study as much as you can from different authors and try to identify which one do you identify the most? with which one do you feel that there's like a connection, seeing yourself using their methods? And once that you see yourself doing that, start studying that deeper, 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 and become yourself an expert. Something that I have seen in the United States that I honestly tell you guys, I think is wrong, is eclecticism. I see therapists, counselors that they say that they do psychoanalysis, CBT, acceptance commitment therapy, person-centered therapy, all at the same time. That's not possible. And when they do that, it's because they don't have a clear understanding of what are they doing, and they can provoke a lot of confusion in their clients. And finally, I have a great book for you guys. I strongly suggest you to buy this book. It's in your syllabus. It's called Systems of Psychotherapy. Olivia knows this book. It was hard for her because we saw many of these chapters, right, Olivia? What is your thinking about this book, Olivia? Did you like it?
Yeah, it was good. I mean, it's hard to get through, but it's good overall.
Yes, what you're gonna see in this book, it's very interesting. They present the same case with all with the major theoretical approaches. So the same case, how would you frame it in psychoanalysis, and how would you work with psychoanalysis? The same case, how would you frame it in CBT, and how would you work with CBT, person-centered therapy, and so on, okay? And so it gives you a very good understanding on what are we doing in all the different approaches that we have. So I strongly suggest you to do the investment and read this book, guys, okay? All right. Any other question, guys? Yes, Alison, go ahead.
Well, just hi, like I haven't talked to you before. I think this is the first time I've had a professor I hadn't met yet. So, I did want to say thank you for clearing up the difference between psychotherapy and counseling, because I know, at least I don't want to speak for everybody, but I thought they were the same thing. Like reading research when they would talk about people going through psychotherapy, I thought it was counseling. So I'm definitely going to look into that because I found that very interesting. Also, in regards to what you said about counselors listing that they use a bunch of different theories at one time, I know we've talked about in our other classes that we should be fairly well, over time, obviously, it's not like you're going to be extremely educated on each one in, 6 months. It takes a while. But to be at least somewhat educated on not as many as possible, but at least 2 or 3, to be able to, utilize them properly depending on what the client needs more. So if a client needs CBT a little bit more, to be able to access that a little bit more. Would you say that that's the right direction to go, or no? Because it kind of sounds like you're more pick one, stick with it.
Okay, that's a great question, Alisa. So first thing I would say, you're in a master program that it's a counseling program. It's not a CBT program. It's not behaviorist program. It's not psychoanalytic program, right? Which is a great thing for you, because in this program, what we are doing is trying to give you a taste of each of these models, okay? So for example, with me, you're gonna taste this CBT, right, approach, and then if you go with Dr. Wolf, you're gonna have a taste of what are most postmodernist approaches in counseling or psychotherapy, or if you go with Dr. Derek, you're gonna have a more an approach to psychoanalysis, right? So this is giving you the opportunity to have an introduction of all these systems, which is good for you guys. Once that you finish your master degree, I will say to you, which one was the most interesting for you? Which one is the one that you like the most? And start with that one. Go to certifications, buy as many books as you can, download as many peer-reviewed articles, and try to find counselors that are working with that model, and try to master that model. And if in the process you see benefit bringing something from other schools, that's okay. But just be careful, guys. There's something that it's called eclecticism and something that is called integrative approaches, okay? Eclecticism is with the same client, I'm gonna do whatever I want, taking from whatever school that I want in the moment that I want. And that is malpractice, guys. That's something that I will tell you, don't do it. And why is that I'm telling you this? There are philosophical, epistemological, and ideological differences that sometimes you cannot reconcile between models, Alison. For example, if you work from a behaviorist perspective, you have a philosophical model behind you that do not believe in the idea of mind. They do not believe in the idea of the mind. And of course, they do not believe in the idea of the unconscious, right? So if you start working with your client with a behaviorist perspective, and then in the meeting number 3, you decide to go with psychoanalysis. It's like if you are using first an antibiotic, and then you are using, I don't know, something for headaches with the same patient for the same problem. 2 different things. You see what I'm saying here, Alison? So, yeah, having said that, give yourself the opportunity to be open to all the models here in the master. And once that you finish, identify the one that you like the most. I hope that is CBT. Just saying, guys. And try to follow that call the best that you can. And if in your process of becoming therapists, you see yourself moving in a different direction, that's okay. That's what I did. Now with my clients, I work CBT. Sometimes I see clients that they will get more benefit with the Jungian analysis, and I work with them with a Jungian perspective. But it's either one or either the other. Make sense what I'm saying?
Yes.
All right.
I feel like I don't know enough yet to like necessarily disagree, but I mean, would you say that like you can still use, I mean, CBT especially, I feel like you can utilize things from CBT within, like if you're coming from more of a psychoanalytic perspective, but like utilizing, telling your client to, I don't know, if they're depressed, to go and do things that make them happy, right? Like do the things that would normally make you happy. Could you not say that like in a session?
That's happening here in the States a lot, but only here in the States. That's not happening in Europe. That's not happening in Latin America. And the reason of why is that happening here, at least my hypothesis, is because here the divisions between schools is not as prominent as it is in Europe and in Latin America, okay? So in Europe, if you're a psychoanalyst, you don't mess with CBT, you don't mess with any
It's like very separated.
Very separate.
Okay.
But here, people don't have those boundaries. Now,
I mean, I think that's cool. But I also see like the benefit of it being separate as well. Yeah.
There's a risk there. If you really want to work with psychoanalysis with your client, there's one main preposition in psychoanalysis, and that is you do not say to the client what do they have to do.
Yes, yes.
In CBT is the opposite. You say to the client what they do have to do. Okay?
Yeah.
So if you're working from a psychoanalysis and suddenly you come and say like, okay, now you have a homework and you're gonna go this week and you're gonna ask 10 people if you are really ugly or not, or if it's only your thinking. And then you're gonna come with me to tell me what did they say about your question. You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
The client is gonna go there and then it's gonna come with you, and now he's completely confused.
Right.
Because the principle in psychoanalysis is do not interfere with the unconscious process of the client. Giving homeworks giving strategies, giving tools will make you the super ego, that's how they call it, will make you like the internalized paternal figure in your clients. And therefore you will be affecting the transference and counter-transference with your client. That's why it's delicate. That's why it's important to know all the theories. And that's why it's important to understand that you cannot mix them. It's not like I'm gonna put them in the
blender.
Yeah, the milkshake machine, right?
Yeah.
and put all together. It doesn't work like that. Okay?
Okay.
All right. Any other question before we move, guys? No?
Well, let me ask you one.
Yes, Michael, go ahead.
Do you find that it's a certain class of people that you may use CBT with? Like I'm referring to like maybe working class, blue collar class, white collar, construction workers, you know, with CBT, or can you use it? Yeah.
That's a beautiful question. One of the things that I learned or that I found in the Jungian studies is that only people with high levels of education and culture get benefit from that type of therapy, because it's very cultural. It works with a lot of historical elements and literature, and it's like a very intellectual type of therapy.
Which therapy was that?
That's the Jungian psychoanalysis.
Okay.
And most of my clients, they were not there. So I was not of use for them. And with CBT, what you have is something beautiful, Mike. You can work with any client. He can have learning disabilities. He can have very low IQ, or he can be super smart person. He can be poor, he can be rich, he can be woman, he can be male, he can be alcoholic, he can be Catholic, he can be whatever, and you can work with, because CBT can adapt to the necessity of the clients. So for example, in the past, I worked with people that they were intellectual disability. They were having intellectual disabilities. And what I was doing is that my work, like the challenge for me was like, how am I gonna make that the homeworks, the explanations, the sessions can be available for them, that they can really get the best from this and they can understand. So I start working a lot with them with drawings or with comics, with kids' books, to try to explain them the same things that I will be explaining to a college professor, but just with a different language. So yes, I would say CBT is for anyone. Now, is it perfect? It is not. It's far to be perfect. And I want you to know something. All theories, including CBT, are wrong. It's just a question of time to understand why is that they are wrong and where is that they are wrong. But that's science. In science, we don't have absolute truths. We are constantly working to have better understanding. Therefore, CBT has flaws. There are clients that they will not respond to CBT, and there are things that can be improved in CBT. Okay? Awesome. All right, guys. So I'm gonna share again my presentation with you, and let's continue with the CBT activity, guys, okay? So I call it, how is the pandemic impacting you? And I said 20 minutes, but maybe it's gonna take more time. But what I'm gonna do is that I'm gonna set an alarm for 10 minutes for you to work individually. And then I'm gonna split you in pods, and you're gonna work with your classmates, okay? So let's go to explain the activity. Number one, describe based on a situation or facts, but not in thoughts or emotions, what it has been for you the most challenging of the pandemic. For example, my family and I were not able to visit our extended family. That's just a fact, you see? There's no thoughts, there's no emotions. I'm not saying it's terrible, what a shame, just facts. Then number two, what are your thoughts or interpretations of said situation? Now, here I'm asking you about your thinking, your thoughts. Okay, this is terrible. I cannot stand this. Why is this happening to me? All right. Now, number three, how did you handle that in terms of emotions and behaviors? Example, I felt frustrated, angry, and hopeless. And what I did was binge watching and binge eating, okay? Okay, so that's the first activity that you have to do. And then number four is the same, but it says, now go again to point number 1, 2, and 3, but this time work with what has been the most positive or constructive during the pandemic. So you have to do the same, but now with the positive and not with the negative, okay? Once that you have done all these 4 points, I'm gonna move you to pods, okay? And you're gonna work with your classmates. You have to introduce yourself with your classmates and share with them your answers and see what you can learn from this activity. And finally, we're gonna come together. We're gonna come together and we're gonna talk about them, okay? All right, guys, I was clear with this? Yes? All right. You also have in your Brightspace page, you have this activity if you want to download it. You also have this presentation that I'm using it. You can also download it, okay? And you have 10 minutes to work individually on those questions, and then I'm gonna split you in pods.
So I guess he wants us to begin.
What is he referring to? Because I'm in the car on my way home from work, so I don't even have the access to the questions he's talking about.
Oh, they're questions that's, yeah, they are questions that's on the site. Like you said, the first one is describe basically on a situation or fact, but not in thoughts or emotions, what it has been for you, the most challenging of the pandemic. That's the first one. The second one is, what are your thoughts or interpretation of the said situation, which is the pandemic? And the third one is, how did you handle that in terms of emotion and behavior? So basically for those 3 questions, he wanted a positive response and a negative response.
Okay. Okay. And we're doing it individual?
Yeah, we're doing it individual first and then as a group.
You turning it in or something?
We're going to discuss it.
Okay, cool.
All right.
Thank you.
Hey, you guys. Where are the questions on Bright Star? I don't see it.
It took me a second to find it too. I'm pretty sure it's like on the, if you click on the first week, it's like at the, if you click on like, it says like first week and then you click on it. It's not.
I'm gonna walk you in Brightspace so you can see it, okay? I'm gonna share my screen with you. There you are seeing my screen right now. And let me go to my Brightspace. So Brightspace. And okay. And this is, I'm gonna change my view as a learner. Okay. Okay. This is how it should look for you guys. Okay. And if you go to content, you will see here week number 1. It's actually open right now. And here you have a lot of files that I upload for you. And if you go to the very end, you will see how is the pandemic impacting you. Can you see it now?
I see it. Yes.
Okay. And here's also the class number 1, the presentation that I'm using if you want to download that. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. How are we doing? Are you done with the questions, guys? Okay, so I don't see the option of to split in different groups, guys. The breakout rooms in my Zoom, and I don't know why. I'm looking for that. So if you know, if you have any ideas about that, I will appreciate how can I send you to different groups. Yes, Janet.
No, I'm not saying. I didn't raise my hand.
Okay. All right.
Sorry.
No problem. Okay. Well, so I was following the instructions in the Zoom web page, but the option is not here in my screen. So what we can do is that we can talk about this between us. It's a small class, so I don't know. Who wants to start? Who wants to start sharing with us what was your answers for this activity, and how did you find this activity, guys?
I'll go first.
Thank you, Sarah.
So my first portion, which was more of the negative, was I had to take over my daughter's education while working full-time and while in school full-time. I'm a single mother, so this was very hard and difficult to do for myself because I was working 40 plus hours, and then the school plus all my assignments, and then again being a single mother, so I'm in charge of the house being clean, feeding her, and everything else. So I became very stressful. I was very stressed, upset about it. I became depressed a little bit, overwhelmed. I did enjoy binge watching TV shows, and I did binge eat a little bit. So then the more positive side was I was quarantined.
Okay. Before we continue, I want to ask you, what was your answer in number 1? What is what you wrote down in number 1?
I had to take over my daughter's education.
Awesome. Now in number 2?
This was very hard and difficult to do along with my own schooling, working full time, and being a single mother.
Perfect. Got it now. Okay, and then you say stress and being watching and being eating, right? Okay, perfect.
Okay, so the second one, I was quarantined with my family. I was so happy that I got to spend time with my family and not had to do like a whole bunch of errands and running around.
Okay.
And then, so what I did was I spent time with my daughter, such as bike ride, and I did multiple activities, trying to keep like different arts and crafts and stuff like that, try and keep her active and happy to be home.
Awesome. Now I have a question for you, Sarah. How do you think that your thoughts help you or didn't help you to cope with the pandemic? Your thoughts.
In the beginning, when it like all happened at once, I was very negative about it and down on myself. Mostly because like the schooling, and I'm not a teacher, like I don't have patience. I'm the type that'll be like, oh, this is the answer. I don't know how you got there, but this is the answer. Like, I don't know how
we go to the end of the book. The answers are there, right?
Like 5 + 5 is 10. Like, I don't know. So like with that aspect, I was like a little bit more negative, but once like school was over, I became like the positivity like clicked in, and I was like, okay, like I'm happy, like I saved a whole bunch of money because of it, because I wasn't going out doing things.
Okay.
Like,
Would you say that there's a correlation between your way of thinking and the emotional response that you were having?
Yes.
Awesome. All right, so thank you very much, Sarah. Now I'm gonna ask Catherine, would you mind to help us here?
Sure, I can share.
Thank you.
My first one, the negative side, for number 1, I put not being able to see people in person or gathered in like larger communities. The second one, I put, like, the things I was saying to myself was, I'm lonely, I'm bored, I'm going stir crazy, and I feel stuck. And then number 3, what I was doing was I wanted to be around my boyfriend 24/7. I got myself just really busy, like doing little things throughout the day, like cooking, cleaning, things like that. And really I just like distracted myself so that I wouldn't feel all that I was feeling.
May I ask you a question, Catherine? What do you think about your thoughts? What do you think about what you were saying to yourself in number 2?
What do I think about it?
Yeah.
I think I was, at first I was saying those things, and then I was just trying not to think them.
Mm-hmm. And when you were saying those things, what do you think about those things? Do you think they were helpful?
No, they were definitely not helpful.
Do you think they were accurate?
Yeah, some of them.
Which of them were accurate and which of them were not accurate?
I'm bored was definitely accurate. Okay. And I'm lonely was, but I'm stuck was not.
Okay. Now, do you think that that way of thinking was helpful for you to face and cope the situation or not?
No, it wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't.
Awesome. Now, can you help us with the number 4?
Yes. So the positive thing, the first part of it was my boyfriend and I started a podcast together. What I was thinking about it was that this is exciting. This is bringing us closer together, and we're doing something we feel like really excited about and like called to do. And the third part, which was like what I was doing about it, I would just like worked really hard on it, and I felt happy and I felt a lot of joy from it. And I told people about it, like I wanted to share it with people.
Now the final question for you. Do you think that that way of thinking in number 4 was helpful, was accurate, was objective?
Yeah, I think it was helpful, and it made me want to work harder on it because I was thinking positively about it.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you very much, Catherine. So now I'm going to ask Dara. Dara, can you help us?
Yes, okay. So for the negative part, one of the worst parts was that I couldn't go to my niece's graduation in Tennessee. So her mother passed, so I thought that it was really unfair that she couldn't get the celebration that her sister had the year before, and we couldn't come down and visit. And I went back and forth a lot or whether I should chance it to go, and with COVID going on. And then number 3, I was sad that I couldn't attend. Her sister did go, so I sent her some money to get her sister some cupcakes so she can have somewhat of a celebration. And I can take part of it. It was also live streamed, so I was able to watch it and watch her go across the stage. So that made me feel a little bit better.
Thank you. May I ask you a question, Dara? Mm-hmm. What do you think about that thought? This is unfair.
I think that, at the moment, I felt like it was true, but I know that life isn't fair in general. So it was a situation that couldn't be avoided, and we had to do what was best.
That's beautiful. There's one of the core beliefs that people have about life is one that we call the just world belief. The idea that there's justice, inherent justice in the world, and that good things happen to good people, bad things happen to bad people. Therefore, if a bad thing happened to me, that shouldn't be happening to me because I'm a good person, right? But as you are saying, well, life doesn't work in that way. And when you were saying to yourself, this is unfair, I guess that was making the situation even more complicated. Don't you think so, Dara?
It was, because that made me really consider traveling during a pandemic to a state that numbers were going up and, you know, could have put me and other family members at risk. So, yeah.
Do you think that will be different for you if you will think something like, this is really unfortunate, this is something that I wish wouldn't happen, but it's happening and I will have to find a way to cope with?
Yeah, that probably would have been better.
Thank you. Do you want to share number 4 with us?
Yes. So for the positive aspect, I was saying that I have a 14-year-old son, so I was able to spend more time with him. And number 2 is that I was thinking that it was great that we could have that time together, since we're in the house every day, all day. And so what I did was, it made me feel happy to be able, he likes to cook, and I would cook with him, let him come up with recipes. We would play video games together and just talk and spend that time. And it made me think of, when we come out of the pandemic, ways that I can make sure we still have that family time together more often, especially him being a teenager.
Awesome. So Dara and the rest of the class, are you seeing the pattern that I want to highlight here? There are situations, then we have thoughts about those situations, and then we have emotions and reactions, not only to that situation, but to what we are saying to ourselves about that situation.
Mhm.
And that's the main idea of CBT. CBT, what it's telling us is not the situations the problem, but the way that we are interpreting the situation. What is the root or the origin of our emotional experiences and behaviors? And of course, the pandemic has been extremely unfortunate for all of us. And the pandemic has a toll for all of us. It's stressful. But if we are thinking, this is unfair, why is always happening this to me? Life is not fair, always is the same. Well, that difficult situation becomes impossible because the way that we are interpreting. In CBT, we pay a lot of attention to what our clients are saying to themselves. We're going to talk about that in a little bit more. I just want to go with Ashley. If you don't mind, Ashley, to share with us.
Okay, so mine is that my job isn't working with us in regards to the kids like going fully e-learning. It's made me feel super stressed, annoyed, and kind of depressed because it's a lot to figure out. It made me feel angry, and I kind of felt defeated.
Okay, can you go to number 2 again, please, Ashley?
Yes, it made me feel stressed, annoyed, and depressed.
Okay, I want to highlight something very important here, Ashley. The difference between feelings and thoughts is that our feelings are our emotions, are the way that we feel, right? And there are different theories of emotions, but most of them agree that there are 4 basic emotions: happiness, sadness, angry, and fear. Okay, those are the basic emotions. And then we have more elaborated emotions, or secondary emotions, or self-conscious emotions, such as jealousy, guilt, embarrassment, and so on. But these 4 are like the basic emotions. Now, what is the difference between emotions and thoughts? Thoughts are the explanations that we are giving to ourselves about the situations. How can we distinguish between thoughts and emotions? Well, generally speaking, we can, when we are trying to identify thoughts, we need more than one word. When we are talking about emotions, we can explain that with one word. For example, Ashley, how do you feel? Sad. How do you feel? Happy. How do you feel? Frustrated. One word is telling you the emotional experience of the person. But if I ask you, and why are you feeling sad? Then you're gonna come with many questions, with many words, right? You're gonna say like, well, I'm sad because I haven't seen my boyfriend, and this is not fair because I want to be with him, and why is this happening to me? Those are thoughts, you see? Now, our clients and us as counselors can get confused on that. But this is very important, at least from a CBT perspective, because CBT says emotions are the result of your thoughts, the way that you are thinking. Okay? So having that in mind, what would you say that was your thinking, your thoughts in number 2, Ashley? What were you saying to yourself?
That I'm feeling very angry about it.
Okay. That's again talking about feelings, right? And I'm going to ask you this. Why is that you were angry?
Because I work my butt off at work and they can't even work with us to try and get us to be able to work from home or, you know, work with us on something we can't control.
That's your thinking. Now, you see, now you know why is that you are upset. Now you know why is that you're feeling this anger. Because you're telling yourself, I'm working too hard and they are not helping us and so on and so on. Now, if I were your counselor, I would have to ask you, let's spend some time in those thoughts and let's try to assess if those thoughts are accurate or not. If they are based on the reality, on the evidence, or they are just your interpretation, maybe with some correlation with the reality, but maybe you are putting something extra on them. Are they productive? Are they helpful? Are they helping you to cope the situation or not? You see, that's what we do. We start a dialogue, a debate. We start challenging the thoughts of our clients. Because if they are capable to think in more objective, rational, and contains ways, they're gonna have less intense emotional response, okay? Now I want to highlight something, guys. CBT is not about positive thinking. Positive thinking can be even very negative for the mental health of people. CBT is about rational thinking, thinking based on evidence, okay? All right. Mike, would you mind to share with us? I cannot hear you, Mike. I think you have your...
There you go.
Thank you.
The first one, I said that because of the pandemic, I wasn't able to enjoy a lot of things in Chicago, like visiting different restaurants, movies, theaters, and parks. The second one, because of that, me not being able to do those type of things because of the pandemic and the social distancing and the required covering just kind of upset me. So it was upsetting.
Why was it upsetting for you, Mike?
The breathing part, you know, having to have the mask over your nose, over your face, understanding the process, but still, you know, I'm doing it. Then I'm looking at other people, and they're not following the process, which is the covering is supposed to be over nose and mouth. I see, you know, you see a lot of people where they just have it over their mouth and not over their nose and their mouth, or down around their chin. And
would you say then that your thinking was, this is uncomfortable, people are not following instructions?
That people are not following instructions, especially different places that I would go to, and they would actually have signs on how you're supposed to wear the particular mask.
Maybe you were saying something like, they don't care, they are irresponsible.
Irresponsible.
Awesome.
Being irresponsible.
You see, now you have identified the source of your upsetting.
But being
irresponsible. You were telling yourself, they are irresponsible. This is uncomfortable, right?
Right.
And maybe you had a point there. And sometimes being upset is a good thing, right? Okay. And how did you cope with that upsetting? What did you do? Number 3.
I basically said that how I it was just disappointing, and I guess I got this wrong because I was saying how it was disappointing. I'm so over the social distancing, the mask, and especially when people look at you and you cough or you sneeze and they ready to jump on you. So
that's number two. That's number two.
I kind of, I'm like,
that's okay. That's okay.
And I know for me in the summertime, I have allergies, and I'm really like, I'm trying not to sneeze or cough because I don't want nobody to look at me like, you need to be going home or something. So,
all right.
Yeah.
Okay, but you see, that's your way of thinking. That's what you were saying to yourself about the situation. That was part of number two. What I will say in number three, based on what you say, is that you felt upset, you felt probably frustrated. And now the question will be, what did you do when you were upset? What did you do when you were frustrated?
Oh, I guess I just stayed home and watched TV.
Okay.
Yeah, just stay home and watch TV.
All right.
Yeah. When it was able to get out a little more, go out. I've been out walking, been to the gym. So.
Okay. So you see, guys, we have situations, then we have thoughts or interpretations of the situation, and then we have emotions and reactions, actions that we do. Okay. Okay. Because we are short in time. If you don't mind, I'm gonna move to the following activity so I can explain you the syllabus, guys, okay? Before the first lecture that we're gonna have, okay? All right, so let me share with you. Okay. And okay, so I'm going to give you very fast the answers of of the activity, described based on situations or facts, but not in thoughts or emotions, but it has been for you the most challenging. My family and I were not able to visit our extended family. We were planning either to go to Mexico or that my parents were coming here, and that was not possible. You see, it's only facts, guys. There, we are not talking about thoughts or emotions, just facts. We want to understand the situation. Number two, what are your thoughts or interpretations? This is unfortunate. I am going to miss my parents and siblings. However, this is also an opportunity to strengthen the relationship with my wife and my kids. I will finally have the time for them that I want. So I always complain, I don't have time for my family. I don't have time for my family. And finally, I was having time for them. Number three, how did you handle that in terms of emotions and behaviors? Disappointed for not seeing my extended family, but enthusiastic for the opportunity to spend the summer with my wife and kids. I set up a schedule with different activities as a family and as individual. And what we want to do with our clients in CBT is to help them to see how their thoughts are shaping their emotions and their actions, and how can they challenge those thoughts to come with more objective, rational, contained way of thinking that helps them to feel and behave in more adaptive ways, guys. Okay, so that was just the example. And all right, I know there's always a lot of anxiety about the classes. How am I going to assess you? How am I going to grade you? And so on. But keep calm and read the syllabus, guys. So let's go to the syllabus. And to do that, I'm going to share my screen so I can open the syllabus from Brightspace. You will see it here. I also built another section here because some of you were telling me, Dr. Guzman, I cannot download the syllabus. I'm learning to use Brightspace, guys. Before we were using Moodle, and in the midst of the pandemic, they asked us to move to Brightspace. So I'm still learning, be patient with me. And one of the things that I learned is that you cannot download the content or material of other weeks if I was having an end date. So what I did is that I erase the end date of all the weeks so you can have access to the material whenever you want. But okay, let's go to see the syllabus, guys, okay? You can just view the topic or you can download the topic. I don't know how familiarized you are with Brightspace, so maybe this can help you. I'm gonna just view the topic because I have it in my computer already, and let's go to talk about it, okay? So, I guess that I can skip this, right, guys?
Question, they changed the title of the program. It's not clinical, counseling psychology.
Oh, yes. Yeah, this has to be with what I was telling you guys. Now it's Clinical Mental Health Counseling Graduate Program, okay? And remember that what I say to you, that they don't want to hear the word psychology. So, yeah, honestly, it's, I don't know what to say, guys. But it has been challenging for me because it's not only changing names, but they are asking me to change books as well. So I have to start from scratches again, many of my classes. Anyway, all right, so Trinity's Master's program offers rigorous academic and professional training in counseling, combining theory, empirical research, and practical experiences. Okay, I'm gonna skip that, guys. I'm gonna go here. Learning outcomes of the program, articulate a professional identity as a clinical mental health counselor, demonstrate the ability to integrate a faith perspective into the practice of counseling, demonstrate knowledge in the core counseling areas, including ethics, multiculturalism, human development, career development, helping relationships, group work, assessment, and research, develop case conceptualizations resulting in treatment plans. We're going to work on that here in this class too, and deliver competent mental health services. Okay. All right. Let's go to the course description. It examines the development of cognitive and behavioral approaches to counseling and enables students to practice counseling methods based upon cognitive and behavioral perspective. So the main focus of the class is CBT. Remember that I already explained you that there are 3 waves of CBT: behavioral therapy, CBT therapy, and the most recent, such as acceptance and commitment therapy, dialectical behavioral therapy, and so on. Here we're gonna play a lot of emphasis in number 2, in CBT, okay? So you can have a good understanding of what is CBT, because if you have a good understanding of what is CBT, you can handle the wave number 1 and the wave number 3, okay? I think that it's like the foundations for you to understand all the other theories or therapies. But we're gonna also spend some time in schema therapy, which is a beautiful way of therapy for personality disorders, and also for people with long-term issues without personality disorders. I'm gonna explain about this in a little bit more. And then we're gonna talk also about acceptance and commitment therapy. This was something that Dr. Wolf asked me to do. So what I did is that I made some changes in my syllabus because I was spending many classes in the philosophy behind CBT. And now we're gonna spend just 1 class talking about philosophy. And that way we're gonna have time to talk about acceptance and commitment therapy at the end of the semester, okay? Students will practice counseling skills and apply CBT, schema therapy, and ACT techniques through in-class role plays and peer counseling sessions. Students will complete a case presentation which includes formulating their assessment, conceptualization, and treatment planning through CBT framework. And students will articulate applications of CBT and ACT to a range of mental health conditions and populations. Okay, questions, guys, so far? No? Okay, remember I cannot see you because I'm reading this. So if you have a question, please interrupt me. Course objectives and assessment of student learning outcomes. Number 1, theories and models of counseling. So you're gonna demonstrate this by three ways. First, a summary essay on BEX, cognitive behavioral therapy, basics and beyond. Okay, I need to go for that book too. I want to show you the book. Okay, and you need to buy this book, okay, guys? This book is gonna be pretty much 80% of our class. So buy the book. It's a very good book, very easy to use, very step-by-step and very hands-on book. I love the book. And I know that you're gonna love the book. Okay, I will tell you that if you don't like, I will pay for it, but I will not say that, guys. You're gonna like it, but believe me. All right, number 2, summary essay on this is the first chapter of this book, which I strongly suggest you to buy it, but you don't have to for this class. Only if you want to know more about schema therapy, which I strongly suggest you, I will suggest you to buy the book, okay? I'm gonna provide for you this first chapter in a PDF, so you don't have to buy the book if you don't want. And then you're gonna have to do a summary essay in an article that it's called Acceptance and Commitment Therapy, okay? These are like, I will strongly suggest you take your time with this one, with this activity. Okay, I'm gonna explain you that a little bit when in a deeper way in a moment, guys, because I want to give you some ideas on how can you work week by week. And that way you don't feel overwhelmed at the end of the semester. Okay? Yeah.
Dr. Guzman, yeah. Was this first book under this first paper, was this book on the syllabus 2 weeks ago?
Yes, you're gonna see that, okay? I'm gonna show you that in a moment.
I was wondering if it was on there 2 weeks ago because that's when I ordered my book.
Which book is that the one that you order?
I'm just asking, was this cognitive behavior therapy basics of what and beyond?
Perfect. That's the only one that it's really required. Okay?
Okay.
This one, the second one, I'm gonna provide a PDF for you because you're gonna work with the first chapter only, okay? But what I was saying, Janet, is that I strongly suggest you to buy it if you like this way of therapy. If you like schema therapy, you can buy this book because it's really good, okay? But it's not required to do so. All right, number 2, objective number 2, evidence-based counseling strategies and techniques for prevention and intervention. And you're gonna prove that through role-playing in class and peer counseling assignment. I have a very interesting assignment for you guys. Number 3, identification of evidence-based counseling practice, same thing. And number 4, techniques and interventions for prevention and treatment of a broad range of mental health issues. And you're gonna prove that with your CBT case conceptualization and treatment formulation based on peer counseling assignment. We're gonna talk about it. Okay, so these are the areas of the course. Introduction to CBT, planning counseling sessions and identifying client issues, CBT case conceptualization and treatment formulation, treating a range of mental health conditions, including PTSD, borderline, anxiety, depression, bipolarity. Now, I want to tell you something, guys. This doesn't mean that at the end of this course, you're gonna be experts in all these disorders, but means that you're gonna have a good understanding on what to do, and you can continue preparing yourself to work with this type of clients, okay? And as I mentioned, introduction to schema therapy and acceptance commitment therapy, and developing diversity awareness with client population. All right. So we can skip some of these. The etiquette is just that you're at home, feel comfortable, okay? Okay, participation, expectation, grading. Well, you need to be in every class. And if you are not in every class, you have to go and watch the recording, and you will have to submit a comment. But I will strongly suggest you to be in every single class, guys, okay? The idea is that this is a presential online class. Use of electronics, use your computer, but you cannot record this or be aware of your laptop or your cellular phone. Don't get distracted with social media and so on. Okay. Citation and formatting. We're going to be using the APA publication manual of the APA. Are you familiarized with these guys? Yes? Okay.
We're somewhat still learning.
Okay, that's okay. I'm gonna find the time to show you a lot of materials that we have in the library, resources for you that can help you on how to use the manual in a simple way, okay? Here's the required text, what we were saying, cognitive behavioral therapy. And these are additional required readings. I'm gonna provide all these readings for you guys. The first one is a CBT therapy article. You already have that in week number 1. Robertson, Stoic Philosophy as Cognitive Behavioral Therapy. You have that too. I have uploaded everything for you guys already. And the schema therapy, that's the chapter 1 from this book. You have it in PDF as well. And finally, this article. So again, you have to do an essay summary of this text, Cognitive Behavioral Therapy. And also you have to do a summary essay of these 2 texts. This one, Young, and this other, Stroschel, okay? You have it you will see that in a moment. Recommended texts, okay, these books are recommendations that I'm giving to you guys. Give yourself some time to read it. You will see this book, you will see this book, you will see also this book, which is a book about CBT and Christianity, Stoicism and Christianity. You will see this book also, The Philosophy of CBT, very interesting book as well. And I'm not sure if I include this here or not, but at least we're gonna talk about this book in psychopathology too. But in case that you want to start thinking on buying this book, I would strongly suggest you to do so, because this is gonna help you a lot when you start seeing your clients and you want to get paid by the insurance. They're gonna be asking you to use this book in the insurance paperwork so you can justify what you're doing with your clients. All right, here are some resources from internet. You can go to the Beck Institute, which I strongly suggest you to do that. They have a lot of seminars, lectures, online, presential, great experience. You will see that Aaron Beck, the founder of CBT, he's still alive. He's 101, I guess, and he's still alive and active. He's still teaching in his institute. Great guy. I had the opportunity to be with him. The Albert Ellis Institute, also a good way to go. CBT Nest. Okay, you need to go to this webpage. It's very good. You're gonna find a lot of lectures, courses, and so on. Yeah, very good. Oh, this guy is very good, huh? David Burns. I strongly suggest you to take his course. And you're gonna see all the important guys in CBT. Oh, this is my friend. Wow. Wendy Behari, she's an expert in schema therapy. I had the opportunity to be with her in New Jersey. She's great. Yeah, Edna Foa, this lady, she's like an institution in CBT and behavioral therapy. So this is a great way where you can have courses, trainings with the best of the best in CBT, guys, okay? Of
Are
course,
these cost?
yes, you have to pay for. Like, look, but it's worth it, guys. Some of them are more expensive, right? For example, this one with David Burns, $200 for 5 hours. Wendy Behari, $160. I have been thinking on asking her to give us a presentation in the university. We'll see if she accepts or not. This one, $80, I strongly suggest you to take it because again, she's an institution, okay? Anyway, all right, so you're gonna find more. This is just some examples of them. Yeah, all right. In the past, they used to have like a subscription that you could pay like monthly and it was cheaper. Maybe they still have that, I don't know. I also am giving you the International Society of Schema Therapy, the Schema Therapy Institute. Psychology Tools. This is an awesome webpage and many of the resources are free, okay, for download. You have great resources here. You go here, download. What do you want to download? Do you want to download an audio? Do you want to download a book or chapters? Scales and measures? Let's go to see scales and measures, for example. You go there and voila, you have all this. Okay, I want to know more about anxiety. And here you have all these things that you can download for anxiety. These are evaluations, okay? So these are scales. You can just download it and use them with your clients. Okay, I want to know about topics. So you can go here and you can go worksheets and handouts. And these are both for clients and for clinicians, okay? So for example, you want to know about bipolar disorders, you just click here. Here you have recognizing hypomanic episode, maniac episodes, recognizing bipolarity, and you can share this with your clients and so on. Or you want to know more, you want to go deeper, right? Okay, you go to download again, you can go to the books and chapters. And it's awesome, guys. You see, it's awesome. So you have, okay, do you want to know more about depression? Just go there. You have a chapter, you have an ebook. It's very good, guys. And most of the resources are for free. I don't know how they do it, but yeah, I thought that it could be good for you. And finally, I want you to go to this YouTube channel. It's amazing. It's for free. This guy, he's from Portugal. I don't know how he does it, but he has access to all the important figures in psychotherapy, in counseling. Not only CBT, guys. He has access to people from all this spectrum. Psychoanalysis. Let's see. Here you have intensive short-term therapy. Schema therapy with Jeffrey Young, the author. Here you have, let's see. Arthur Freeman, he's an institution as well, that's CBT. Then psychodynamic therapy, Stanley Messer, he's an institution in psychodynamic. He has access to all these people, I don't know how. And he has these conversations with them, focused therapy, emotion focused therapy, sorry. And he has access to them, he has conversations with them, and they are amazing. You're gonna learn a lot. Stephen Hayes from ACT, Acceptance Commitment Therapy, that we're gonna talk later, and so on, okay? All right, spend time on that, guys. You're gonna improve your knowledge a lot. All these resources can be very helpful for you. Let's move to our schedule. So today is the overview of syllabus and the introduction of CBT. And here you have your assignments for the next class. So this way you will not get confused, guys, okay? Readings for class number 2, CBT therapy, paper given by the professor. You have it. Let's go to, okay, I'm gonna show you in a moment where you have all these papers, okay? And then you have to read also the Stoic philosophy as cognitive behavioral therapy. These two are short readings, don't worry. And here you have everything that we're gonna be seeing week by week, activity by activity. Please spend time on it. If you have any doubt, do not hesitate to let me know. But I want to go to the assignments, guys, so you can know what is expected from you. So 3 different papers, summary essay on BEX, cognitive behavioral therapy. This is gonna be the most challenging, I will say, because it's the whole book, guys. But we're gonna be working week by week with this book. So what you can do, don't wait to the very end of the semester to do this essay. Better, every week, once that you have done your reading, give yourself 20 minutes, 30 minutes to go to your computer and write down the most important ideas of your reading. That way, at the end of the semester, you will have the summary done and you will not have to spend more time. Make sense? Then you have to submit these two. You can see the first one is 15-page long. So again, don't wait to the end. The second one is 7-page long because it's the first chapter. But even though it's the first chapter, it is kind of long. It's like 40 pages or so, okay? 40 some pages. So you will have to submit a paper of 7 pages. And then you have to submit a summary essay of 5 pages on acceptance and commitment therapy, okay? Now, they include the cover page and they also include the reference page. So for the first one, it is in reality only 13 pages. For the second one, it's in reality only 5 pages. And for the third one, it's in reality only 3 pages. Now you have this assignment. I'm gonna read it out loud. You will be assigned, or maybe I'm gonna ask someone to help me reading. Olivia, can you help me reading this one, please? So that way you can rest from my voice.
Yep, the peer counseling one?
Yes.
Okay, you will be assigned to another classmate to work on this project. Each of you will have to role play the role of the counselor and the role of the client and tape 3 sessions each. The content of these sessions is not the goal, so the stories can either be made up or based on real events. What is important for this assignment is that you demonstrate your abilities as a counselor based on the content of this class. You will have to record the meetings and upload them on YouTube as an unlisted or private video, so only the class will be able to watch them. As an assessment and feedback, I will complete the PDCA-R after watching your peer counseling sessions assignment, and I will provide a copy of that for you. You will also have to complete the form as a self-assessment.
Thank you very much, Olivia. So tomorrow, I'm gonna send you an email telling you who's your partner. And you will have to take 3 meetings, each of you. So in 3 meetings, you're gonna have the role of the counselor and your partner is gonna have the role of the client, okay? Then in the other 3 meetings, you're gonna shift positions and your partner is gonna be the counselor and you're gonna be the client. And of course, each client has a different story. You want to work with your own issues? Go ahead. But just have in mind that this is going to be open for the class, so the class can watch the content. It's up to you. You don't want to work with your own issues? You can make up a story. You can come with a story of a client or of a person that you know or something like that. As I was telling, the important thing here is not the story. The important thing here is to see how do you work as a counselor. Then you're going to have to upload this and I'm going to provide you feedback, okay? And here you have the due dates. And you can see there are 2 different due dates because you will have to present this to the class. half of the class will present in this date and half of the class in this date, okay? And that's the following and final assignment. It's a case conceptualization and treatment formulation. I'm gonna ask someone else to help me here. Who can help me here to read? Janet, would you mind to help me reading number 3?
Number 3, case conceptualization and treatment formulation, 25 points, due December 7th, 2020 and December 14th, 2020. Throughout the readings and the lectures in the class, you will learn how to develop a CBT case conceptualization and a treatment formulation. The last 2 sessions of our course will be assigned for you and your classmates to present your case conceptualization based on the peer counseling assignment along with your recorded meetings in front of the class. You will have to do this with a PPT PowerPoint presentation and submit your paper with all the information. A rubric for this assignment will be provided for you and you will receive a score based on that.
Thank you very much. So once that you have done your 3 meetings, what you have to do is a case conceptualization based on that client that is your classmate, right? And a treatment formulation. So, and you're gonna present that in paper and in a PPT, in a PowerPoint presentation. I understand that you might be like, wait, what? That's a lot. But don't worry, guys. This is what you will have to do with every single client. And there's going to be a time, God's will, that you're going to have your agenda full, having 8 clients per day. So you have to learn how to do this. And I'm not expecting perfection, but I am expecting progress to see that you are working in this. So don't worry, you're going to learn how to do this. And again, once that you have your 3 sessions, you're going to go to your computer, you're going to take the case conceptualization of your client, and a treatment formulation, and then you're going to present that to the class as if you're presenting a real case, and with some short clips of the meetings as well, so we can see how you were asking questions and how were you relating with your client. Make sense so far, guys?
Yep.
Okay. Any questions? No? All right, okay. So we're gonna take a break, but just before going to the break, I want to show you this, guys. If you go to content, again, you have all the material in these sections in the weeks. So here, you already have your syllabus. This is the paper that you will have to read for next class. Here's the paper. Oh, no, sorry, this is my presentation. Okay, I'm going back. We're gonna talk about that in a moment. Here you have the paper for CBT. You have to read this for next class. You have also the paper for Stoic philosophy. Now this one, you don't have to read it, guys, okay? I just include this for those of you that want to know more about Stoicism and Christianity, okay? And psychotherapy, but you don't have to read it. Yes, and yeah, okay. And that's the same thing in all the other weeks. So for example, in this week, I'm also providing something for you. I don't see what is here. Okay, the PDF. Okay, you cannot see it right now because what I was telling you. In every week, I'm putting that. Your PDFs and any articles that you're gonna need and so on. Okay, guys, let's take a break, 15 minutes, if that's okay for you. And I will see you at 8:50. Okay, it's 8:15. How are we doing so far, guys? Doing good?
Great. Doing good. Yep, doing great.
Okay.
I like how you explain everything and very clear with things that we may be a little bit confused about. So I really like that.
I appreciate that, Crystal. And please do not hesitate to contact me in any given moment of the semester. If there's a class that was difficult for you and you want an explanation, or in the middle of the class, or whenever you want, okay? So
what's your response time?
Sorry, Mike?
What's your response time if we send you an email?
Well, generally speaking, between 24 hours, if it's during the week. If you send it on Friday, you might expect an answer on Monday, okay? Because Fridays I'm with my clients, so, and Saturdays and Sundays, I usually don't check my email, okay? All right, guys. This is one of the books that I was telling you, Psychology as Religion by Paul Vitz. For those of you that want to have I would say, a critical perspective of psychology. It's a very interesting, he's a Christian scholar. I really like him. And this is the book that we're gonna be using, the Cognitive Behavioral Therapy, Basics and Beyond, okay? This was written by Judith Beck, which she's the daughter of Aaron Beck. And she's a very good clinician. And it's an amazing book, guys. Buy it. You're gonna learn a lot about this, okay? And even if later on, oh, you have it now, Dara, good thing. And even good thing, I like it. And even if you later on decide to go in a different direction, yes, there's still some room that you can use some CBT things with clients with a different perspectives. But we will talk about that later, okay? I don't want to get you confused with what I said at the beginning of this class. All right, so let's go to work with our first lecture of this course, that is an introduction to cognitive behavioral therapy. Okay, this is an introduction that I have for you. I try to synthesize everything in a very clear way. Let's see if I was able to do it or not. These are the three topics that we're gonna talk. The philosophical background of cognitive behavioral therapy. Now, why is it important to talk about philosophy? Well, because every single type of therapy has a different philosophical perspective, background. And why is that? Well, because every single school of therapy has a different understanding about human development, mental health, and human suffering. And that perspective is based on that philosophical background. So for example, if you study logotherapy, which is an existential therapy, well, the philosophy behind is existentialism, although they also include stoicism that we're gonna talk today. And that makes the existential therapist to work constantly to the pursuit of meaning and purpose in the life of the clients. You see? Because existential philosophy is all about that. Existentialists, they have this idea that life is meaningless and you have to build meaning, otherwise life becomes intolerable. You cannot tolerate life if you don't build building in your life. Therefore, psychotherapists who work with existential therapy, they're gonna work in that direction. In the case of psychoanalysis, for example, well, they have a philosophy that is based on some of the ideas of Nietzsche, for example. And and because they have a philosophy behind them, that it's the idea that humans are not fully capable. Humans are not, maybe not only Nietzsche, sorry guys, but Schopenhauer as well, another great German philosopher. And the whole idea is humans are not capable to have a clear understanding of who they are and the forces that operate within. Therefore, what a psychoanalyst is going to do is to work with those forces that are unconscious for people. See? In CBT, we have a specific philosophy, which is Stoicism. We're going to talk about that. In behavioral therapy, they have pragmatism, which also is acceptance commitment therapy that we're going to talk at the end of this semester, is based on pragmatism, okay? Now, some of these philosophies have commonalities, but some others, they have no commonalities at all. And that's why when you are working in psychotherapy, you cannot just use one and another, because you are not only working with different psychotherapeutical models, but also with different philosophies of life, of understanding existence, human suffering, and even epistemology, the way that we interact with the reality and we are capable to know and understand reality and so on, okay? So that's why we need to pay attention to philosophy. Unfortunately, many psychologists, counselors, psychiatrists, they don't do that. And then the meetings with them become, I would say, places where they are trying to do something sin have a clear understanding of what is that they are trying to do. I have heard some students saying me, well, the most important thing for me is to understand my client. And then I'm telling them, and how are you going to understand them if you don't have a framework to provide you direction? And that's philosophy. And that's the theoretical models. They are frameworks that provides to you a GPS so you can know how to navigate with your clients, and then you can understand them. If you don't have those frameworks, you cannot understand them. You will be understanding them based on your own ideas and experiences. And maybe you have a great wisdom, but who tells you that maybe it's the opposite or not? You see, that's why you want to have a good understanding of these topics. Philosophy and theoretical models, how they interact, and how are we applying those to our clients. And we're going to talk about the psychological background of CBT. CBT has specific authors, but they don't start from zero. They start from the work of previous psychologists. And then we're going to talk about the historical development of CBT, right? So let's go to the philosophical background. And I try to do this as simple as possible for two reasons. One, I know philosophy sometimes is just complicated. What are they saying? You know, they use words and ways of framing things that sometimes are really complicated. And two, because I'm not the best to teach philosophy. I'm a psychologist, I'm not a philosopher. However, I try to do my best, and let's see if we are able, if I was able to do it or not. So you can understand philosophy that as a discipline that has two main branches. One is the theoretical branch, and the other is the practical. In the theoretical, what philosophy studies is reality, is the phenomena in the world, okay? It's the existence. Why is that we have matter? How matter interacts with matter? How humans interact with matter? How are we capable, and that's the other area, you see, human knowledge. How is human capable to understand reality and matter, and how can we interact with that? That's the theoretical part of philosophy, which I would say in modern times seems that it's like the only branch of philosophy. When you talk with a philosopher, they are always talking about those things, right? But at the beginning, it was not like that. For the for the Greeks, there was the other branch, that branch was the practical branch of philosophy. And they still exist. That's why it's the area that studies ethics, politics, the interactions between ethics and politics, but also human thinking and behaving. You can see that psychology came from that part of philosophy. Psychology, the first psychologist in the human history was Aristotle. Aristotle. Am I pronouncing it well? Aristoteles, we say in Spanish. Aristotle, yeah, the student of Plato. And he has a beautiful book that is called Anima, which is a word in Latin that means soul. And he explained the qualities of the human capacity to understand, to think, to behave, and so on. So psychology comes from philosophy. And the philosophy behind CBT, which is Stoicism, has, how should I say this? They studied both branches, the theoretical and the practical. But they are better known for the practical and not for the theoretical studies, okay? And that's why they are famous even nowadays for the practical, for the human thinking and behaving, for the ethics, and that's why CBT is based on that. So Stoicism is a type of philosophy that is part of what we call realism, okay? The philosophy can be also divided between realism and anti-realism, especially when we are talking about ethics and human behavior. The idea of realism is that there's a reality, that it's objective, not subjective. And therefore, human beings need to behave according to that reality. The idea of anti-realism is there's no such thing as objective reality. There's only interpretations, there's only, there's no good and bad, there's only opinions, okay? You can see that we are living in an era that it's very anti-realism, right? Where we have even this idea of relativism, where everything is okay, where there's no an objective truth, there's not an objective reality. We are living in times that are more anti-realism than realism. Now, science is based on realism as well. Why? Because science says there's an objective reality out there, and we need to try to find a way to understand that reality. But we are limited to understand that reality. Therefore, we need a method. That's the scientific method. And with that method, we're gonna overcome our limitations, and we're gonna have a better understanding of that reality, that truth, okay? There's an objective truth, there's an objective reality. But why then is that I see things in one way and people see things in a different way? Because we have limitations, because we have biases, because we cannot have the whole understanding of the reality because of our limited capacities. And that's the Stoicism as well. That's what the Stoics are saying. There's an objective reality and there's an objective moral truth. And what we need to do is to behave according to that reality. You see why there's a correlation between Stoicism and Christianism? Christianism is also a realistic religion. They say there's an objective truth, the ultimate truth, which is God. And God has given us some commandments that are objective, the 10 commandments, and we need to follow those. If we follow those, we're gonna be okay. If we don't follow those, we are not gonna be okay, right? So it's a realistic religion as well. That's why there's similarities between Stoicism and Christianism also. However, there are differences as well. Okay, now, at the time of the Stoics, there was another school that was like the opposite school. Suppose that we are talking about CBT versus, I don't know, psychoanalysis, okay? different schools, divided schools. They were having debates, fights, arguments. And that school, it's called Epicureanism. It's better known as hedonism, okay? Epicureanism is the idea that people need to strive, need to find pleasure in life and to reduce suffering in life. And if you do that, then you're gonna be in ataraxia. Ataraxia, which is a state of I am not affected by reality because I have built so much pleasure in my life that suffering, I don't get affected. Now, there's a lot of problems with Epicureanism, right? That's why Christianity was opposed to Epicureanism. There's Stoicism, it was opposed to Epicureanism, not only for a moral reason, but for one element. You do not control suffering in life. You can try to increase as much as you want pleasure in your life. You can be a hedonist and having sex every day, drinking every day, having fun every day, eating all what you want. And guess what? All that is going to have a negative consequence on you. You're going to have a heart attack. You're going to have obesity. You're going to have a stroke. You're going to have hypertension. And not only that, because you are living a life based on pleasure, you are depriving yourself of growth, because we know that we grow in suffering. We grow in difficult times. That's what we are seeing right now with the pandemic. It has been difficult, but we are growing too. I learned to do many things. I learned to do many things in this pandemic because I was bored. And I was telling my wife, teach me to prepare food. And she was teaching me. Or we had to repair many things. And now I know how to repair things, which I was not able to do before. Struggle makes people grow. And that's what hedonists, Epicureanism didn't see it, okay? And we are living again in a time of Epicureanism, hedonism. People want to feel good. That's like the goal for many people. I want to feel good. And that's why we have this addiction epidemic everywhere, but especially in the United States. I don't want to be sad. And that's why we have millions and millions of people addicts to the antidepressants. I don't want to feel anxiety, and we have millions and millions of people addicts to anxiety medicines. See what I'm saying? When we are thinking in that way, we don't see the good that is in struggling. Struggling is good for us. Now, it's something that we do not desire. And with that, I agree completely. I'm not saying that we need to suffer, to look to suffer, but we need to find ways to face suffering, because sooner or later, we will be faced with suffering in our life. And if we don't learn to do that, then what's going to happen is we're going to develop negative behaviors. And with those negative behaviors, we will say in psychology, negative coping strategies, we're going to make our life even more difficult. So that's why Stoicism was in opposition with Epicureanism. They were saying like, no. You know what? The ultimate goal in life cannot be pleasure. The ultimate goal in life needs to be to develop eudaimonia. So you can see here down eudaimonia. And for them, eudaimonia, it was the maximum, how should I say this? Like the ideal state of human development that is based on the 4 cardinal virtues. What are those cardinal virtues? Courage, temperance, justice, and wisdom. And Stoics were saying, it doesn't matter how is your life. It doesn't matter if you are rich or poor, if you are a slave or you are an emperor. By the way, we will see 2 of the most important Stoics. One was an emperor and the other one was a slave. So they know what they were talking about. it doesn't matter if you are ill or you are healthy. What matters is how are you gonna face your life under those circumstances. And they were saying, all those circumstances are opportunities to develop those 4 cardinal virtues. Are you rich? Good for you. But the real question is, do you have courage? Do you have temperance? Do you have justice? Do you have wisdom? Because if you don't have that, what's the point of having wealth? Are you poor? There's nothing wrong with that, as long as you live your poorness based on courage, temperance, justice, and wisdom. That's why Christianity is a religion that also talks about poorness as something good, right? They are not saying that poorness is intrinsic good, but what they are saying is that in poorness, you can be good. You see what I'm saying here, guys? Because I don't have your faces here. I'm not seeing your responses, like physical responses. But the idea in Stoicism and in Christianity is, doesn't matter the circumstances of your life. What matters is how are you going to react to that? And why is that they are saying that? Well, because they say that there's something that is called logos. Logos, for those of you that are Christians, you will remember that in the preface of John's Gospel, it says that at the beginning was the Logos, the Word, and the Logos become flesh, right? Well, for the Stoics, Logos is the rational entity behind everything. We will call that God. At the time, they were pantheists. Some of them, some others were monotheists. But remember, they come from Greece and from Rome. It was a time where pantheism was very common. But they were thinking there's this rational entity behind the existence. And there are laws, natural laws. And because there are natural laws, what humans have to do is to behave according to those natural laws. And therefore, to that rational entity, and therefore they're going to be in eudaimonia, and they're going to develop 4 cardinal virtues, and they're going to be able to cope with any adversity in life, because they will understand this that is happening to me is neither just or unjust. It's fortunate or unfortunate, but it is also an opportunity to ask myself, how am I going to face this situation? Following logos or resisting logos? In other words, when we say everything happens for a reason, that's logos, okay? That's when we are saying that when, oh, my wife died and this is so sad, and we go and say like, I know, but remember that everything happens for a reason. Okay, you are calling logos, okay? All right, so who are the most important Stoics? Marcus Aurelius. And guys, this sculpture is here in Chicago, in the Art Institute of Chicago. You need to go and see it. It has 2,000 years and it's beautiful. It's amazing. I have a picture with that sculpture with my daughter. Okay, Marcus Aurelius. He has a beautiful book that is called Meditations. I strongly suggest you to buy that book. It's not more than $5 or $10. It's a short book, but it's a book that has shaped the mind of the most important people in human history. So I will say that book, along with the Bible, and along with Ethics for Nicomaco of Aristotle, are 3 books that you have to read before you die, okay? And he says this: your mind will take the form of what you often think, because the human spirit is colored by such impressions. You see, they are inviting us to think about what we are thinking. What are you telling to yourself about the situation that you are living? He was an emperor, and historian says that he was the best emperor in the Roman Empire. he had to face also an epidemic in his time. And when everybody was dying and everybody was running out of the city, he turned and said, like, where are we going? Are we cowards or what? We're gonna face this epidemic with the best weapons that we have. And that is solidarity, community, helping others, trying to see how can we make of this an opportunity for ourselves. And he died in that epidemic, but he was also doing what he was preaching. Awesome guy. Buy that book, okay? Okay. I think there's someone with the mic on. If you can mute them, or if you want to share something, feel free, okay?
Yeah, the one with Marcus Aurelius, the one you just said, your mind will take the form of what you often think. There's a scripture that says, whatsoever a man thinketh, so is he. Is that similar to that?
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you, Janet, for bringing that. You will see there's a lot of similarities between Stoicism and Christianity. There's this book, where is it? Here. This author, which is a Christian scholar, he's a psychologist. He wrote this book, The Porch and the Cross, and it's called Ancient Stoic Wisdom for Modern Christian Living. He talks about those similarities, those commonalities, but not only that, they were living at the same time. So many people think that both the Gospels and the letters from Paul, they are Stoic writings. And think about it. Many of the things that Jesus was teaching, they were very Stoic, such as pick up your cross and follow me, right? Accept your reality. And if you accept your reality, you're going to be able to overcome the reality. But if you resist to your reality, if you resist to your suffering, you will not overcome that. And Paul, not only that, but Paul in the letter to the Romans, there's a part on that letter that says that Paul was talking with the Stoics in Rome. I think it's in chapter 13 or something of that letter, but it is said, I was talking with the Stoics in Rome. And many people says that his brother was a formal, like he was really part of the Stoic school, like officially, okay? So many similarities. There's also a great, there's one saint, one of the fathers of the church. I don't remember his name right now, but he was writing a lot about Stoicism and Christianity. Very similar, okay? What you say to yourself is having an effect on your emotions, your behaviors, in your soul. If I'm saying to myself, I'm stupid, I'm stupid, I'm stupid, I'm stupid, I'm stupid, I'm not capable, I'm not good enough, I'm a terrible person, how am I gonna feel? I'm gonna feel terrible. And later on, I can make that to become a reality, even when that's not the case. All right, Epictetus. He's the slave. He was a slave for many years. He has a great story. His master was severe with him, and he was smashing his leg. And Epictetus turned and says, like, if you continue doing that, you're gonna break my leg. And the master continued doing that, and at the end he broke the leg of Epictetus, and says, the story at least, that Epictetus says, you see, I told you, now I have a broken leg. And what happened is that thing that you could say that was a misfortune, in reality, who knows, right? Later on, the master says, this slave doesn't help me anymore. He's not useful for me anymore because now he cannot walk properly. So he released him as a slave. He became a free man. And when he became a free man, what he did is that he started preaching Stoicism. And he becomes the most important philosopher of his time. He was known as the Roman Socrates, okay? And he has this very well-known quote that is very common in CBT. It says, it is not the events themselves that disturb people, but only their judgments about them. Now, I personally say, it is not only the events themselves that disturb people, but also their judgments about them. Because let's face, in reality, most of us, we're gonna get affected for things that they just happen, like the pandemic, right? Or the death of your loved one or something like that. But if you pay attention to what you are saying about that situation, you can make that situation more difficult or less difficult. Okay, he has a great book that is called Enchiridion, E-N-C-H-I-R-I-D-O-N, Enchiridion. It's a Latin word. Beautiful, beautiful. I strongly suggest you to read it. Seneca, he was the richest man in Rome after the emperor. And he has a very tragic story. Difficulties strengthen the mind as work does the body. He was a great philosopher, a great attorney, and a great political counselor of the emperor. But he was the counselor of a terrible emperor. The name of that emperor was Nero, the responsible of the killing of so many Christians, right? Have you seen the movie Paul? It's awesome. If you haven't watched it, go and watch that movie. It's based on the time of Nero, because Paul was in Rome in the time of Nero, and they were using Christians as a human torch to illuminate the streets. So Seneca, he says, I work with him because what is worse, to leave a crazy man in the power with no one telling him the truth, or having someone trying to contain him and telling him the truth. Now, I don't know how to say that in English, but in Spanish we say, le salió el tiro por la culata. That means that when you are using a gun and you shoot, and instead of the bullet going in the right direction, it goes against you. That's what happened to him, because at the end,
ricochet.
Sorry?
Backfire.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mike. So at the end, the emperor he started thinking that Seneca was having a plot against him. So he condemned Seneca to commit suicide. It was a horrible suicide. I don't have time to share the whole story with you, but he suffered terrible. And his wife and his students were there crying and begging the emperor to stop that. And Seneca turned and says, like, why are you crying? Is this for what I am been preparing all my life? And now you are crying like little children? He didn't use these words, but in common words will be like, man up, right? Don't cry. I knew what I was doing. I knew that I was dealing with this crazy guy. And this is what happens. And there's nothing but to accept this. Now think about this, Janet. Isn't it very similar to what Jesus was saying to Peter? When Peter was telling him, no, my Lord, I will not allow that to happen to you. And Jesus turned and says, get away, Satan. Because this is for what I have come here. So you see, there's a lot of similarities. All right. This is a modern Stoic. He has this book, very good book. He has other 3 books. One is called Ego is the Enemy, Obstacle is the Way, and Stillness. Stillness is what? Is the key. Stillness is the key. Very young guy, very smart guy, very popular in social media. We're going to be reading some of his sayings of this book in some of the classes. He's a modern Stoic. He includes some other philosophies as well, but he has something to say. And he says, we forget that in life, no matter what happens to you or where you come from, It matters what you do with what happens to you and what you have been given. You see, guys, Stoicism is calling to the inner person. It's calling to take responsibility of the life that you have. In every single stage of history, there has been justice and injustice, suffering and no suffering, wealth and poorness, and so on. And that will continue to the end of the world. Like, we will never, remember guys, the paradise is close and it has two cherubims, two angels with a sword in the entrance, right? Stopping anyone to go inside. Paradise is not gonna happen here. That doesn't mean that we don't need to work in social problems or trying to build a more justice society. Stoics were very, very interested in commonwealth. But what this means is you will not be able to help your society if you don't help yourself first. So stop for a moment complaining about what's going on in the world, about what's going on in your society, and start working in you. Because many of the things that are out there, you cannot control. But you can control what is going on with you. Are you waking up on time? Are you eating appropriately? Are you working out? Are you being responsible with your school, with your work? Are you making peace with your loved ones? Are you trying to understand the way that you think, the way that you behave, what is good and what is bad for you and for others? Are you trying to become the better version of yourself? Not in this romantic way, but building those 4 cardinal virtues, having courage, having temperance, having justice, and having wisdom for you and for others. Start working there, and you're gonna make a change in your life. And when you make a change in your life, then you're gonna be able to bring something to the society, but not the other way around. You see, Stoicism is different to what we are listening now in postmodernist philosophies. Postmodernist philosophies, they don't talk about the individual, they talk about society and trying to eliminate the power and the injustice in the world, which is okay, but in my opinion, is futile. Because if you don't work with the individual, you will be never able to bring those negative things down in the society. That's why I like so much Stoicism. So let's watch this short video. It's gonna give us a summary of what I have talked, and then we can go to some questions and answers if you want. Can you watch the video here? Yes? Sí.
Esa laptop vieja aún está tratando
sorry.
de arrancar. Es hora de hacer.
Okay. Are you able to see what I'm saying here or not?
No.
No, we don't see the video.
I don't see the video, just see the PowerPoint presentation.
Okay, so I'm gonna stop sharing that and I'm gonna share my whole screen. Okay. Now, can you see? It says,
yeah.
Okay, perfect. All right.
You've been stranded thousands of miles from home with no money or possessions. Such a predicament would make many people despair and curse their awful fate. But for Zeno of Cyprus, it became the foundation of his life's work and legacy. The once wealthy merchant lost everything when he was shipwrecked in Athens around 300 BCE. With not much else to do, he wandered into a bookshop, became intrigued by reading about Socrates, and proceeded to seek out and study with the city's noted philosophers. As Zeno began educating his own students, he originated the philosophy known as Stoicism, whose teachings of virtue, tolerance, and self-control have inspired generations of thinkers and leaders. The name Stoicism comes from the Stoa Poikile, the decorated public colonnade where Zeno and his disciples gathered for discussion. Today, we colloquially use the word stoic to mean someone who remains calm under pressure and avoids emotional extremes. But while this captures important aspects of Stoicism, The original philosophy was more than just an attitude. The Stoics believed that everything around us operates according to a web of cause and effect, resulting in a rational structure of the universe, which they called logos. And while we may not always have control over the events affecting us, we can have control over how we approach things. Rather than imagining an ideal society, the Stoic tries to deal with the world as it is, while pursuing self-improvement through 4 cardinal virtues. Practical wisdom, the ability to navigate complex situations in a logical, informed, and calm manner. Temperance, the exercise of self-restraint and moderation in all aspects of life. Justice, treating others with fairness even when they have done wrong. And courage, not just in extraordinary circumstances, but facing daily challenges with clarity and integrity. As Seneca, one of the most famous Roman Stoics, wrote, "Sometimes even to live is an act of courage." But while Stoicism focuses on personal improvement, it's not a self-centered philosophy. At a time when Roman laws considered slaves as property, Seneca called for their humane treatment and stressed that we all share the same fundamental humanity. Nor does Stoicism encourage passivity. The idea is that only people who have cultivated virtue and self-control in themselves can bring positive change in others. One of the most famous Stoic writers was also one of Rome's greatest emperors. Over the course of his 19-year reign, Stoicism gave Marcus Aurelius the resolve to lead the empire through 2 major wars while dealing with the loss of many of his children. Centuries later, Marcus's journals would guide and comfort Nelson Mandela through his 27-year imprisonment during his struggle for racial equality in South Africa. After his release and eventual victory, Mandela stressed peace and reconciliation, believing that while the injustices of the past couldn't be changed, his people could confront them in the present and seek to build a better, more just future. Stoicism was an active school of philosophy for several centuries in Greece and Rome. As a formal institution, it faded away, but its influence has continued to this day. Christian theologians such as Thomas Aquinas have admired and adopted its focus on the virtues, and there are parallels between Stoic ataraxia, or tranquility of mind, and the Buddhist concept of nirvana. One particularly influential Stoic was the philosopher Epictetus, who wrote that suffering stems not from the events in our lives, but from our judgments about them. This has resonated strongly with modern psychology and the self-help movement. For example, rational emotive behavioral therapy focuses on changing the self-defeating attitudes people form about their life circumstances. There's also Viktor Frankl's logotherapy. Informed by Frankl's own time as a concentration camp prisoner, logotherapy is based on the Stoic principle that we can harness our willpower to fill our lives with meaning, even in the bleakest situations.
All right, guys. Okay, I'm seeing that it's 9 p.m. I'm still halfway through the presentation, and what I'm planning to do, if it's okay for you guys, is that we can stop here. I can answer any question that you have, or at least I'm gonna try to do that. And tomorrow, sorry. Okay, I'm sorry. And tomorrow I'm gonna record what is left of the presentation, and I'm gonna upload that to you. So you can rest today, and you will have the rest of the week to watch what is left on the presentation. So questions, doubts, things that you would like to ask? No? Okay. All right. So is it okay for you then if we stop here and I record that and I upload that? Okay. So the following part of the recording will be CBT history and how is CBT working right now for you guys, okay? Try to watch that during the week, and I will see you next week. All right, guys.
All right, good night.
Have a good night.